Have you ever felt like you give too much, that you are kind, considerate, respectful, and yet others ignore you, belittle you, or treat you as if you don't matter? If this has happened to you, it's not because you're weak, it's not because you lack character, much less because you have a good heart. The reason is something else. You're making silent mistakes that, without you realizing it, invite others to walk all over you. And what's most surprising is that most of these mistakes don't stem from malice, but from fear, attachment, and mental patterns you've carried for years. Patterns you never questioned. Patterns that Zen philosophy exposes with brutal clarity. What you tolerate becomes your teacher, and you become its student. Today I'm going to show you 7 mistakes that almost every good, sensitive, or spiritual person makes. Mistakes that seem small, but that destroy your inner peace, damage your relationships, and cause others to lose respect for you. And the important thing isn't just identifying them, it's understanding how to correct them with Zen wisdom. Because when you make that internal change, your external world changes with it. Imagine for a moment a perfectly still lake. A small stone falls into it. That tiny impact creates ripples that reach the other side. That's how respect works. You don't need to shout. You don't need to impose your will. You don't need to fight. You only need a clear, firm, and calm inner gesture that communicates to the world. There are boundaries here. People don't walk all over you because they want to hurt you. They walk all over you because they don't perceive those ripples, because your inner self isn't sending clear signals. And when that clarity is lacking, something begins to silently unravel inside you. It doesn't happen suddenly, nor with obvious signs. It happens in those everyday moments when you feel something is off, but you still carry on because you don't want trouble, because you don't want to make anyone uncomfortable, because you don't want anyone to think badly of you. And without realizing it, you begin to move through life from a place of doubt, from tension, from an inner feeling that tells you, I don't want this, but which you suppress to maintain a superficial harmony. Zen teaches that peace is not the absence of conflict, but the presence of authenticity. When you are not authentic with yourself, your whole life begins to be built on a fragile, unstable foundation, and that inner emptiness becomes a magnet for others to cross your boundaries. And this is where the first mistake appears, one that almost everyone who feels others are taking advantage of them makes without realizing it. A mistake so silent it seems like a virtue. A mistake so common that most people defend it, even as it destroys them from within. The first mistake is confusing kindness with renunciation. This is one of the deepest emotional deceptions of human beings. Believing that being a good person means sacrificing oneself. Believing that being spiritual means enduring. Believing that being kind means giving in to everything. Believing that keeping the peace means keeping quiet about what hurts. But that idea has nothing to do with Zen, or with true compassion, or with emotional health. Kindness is not about disappearing. Kindness is not about considering yourself less important than others. Kindness is not about carrying what others drop. And yet, how many times have you acted like that? How many times have you said yes when you wanted to say no? How many times have you accepted something that made you uncomfortable just so as not to look bad? How many times did you minimize your emotions because you thought they weren't that important? How many times have you remained silent while another person crossed a line that you clearly felt, but preferred to ignore it? That kind of internal resignation is so profound that it doesn't even seem like resignation. It seems like education. It seems like kindness. It seems like spirituality. But it isn't. It is fear disguised as virtue. In a Zen monastery, a master used to say, "If your kindness leaves you empty, you are not being good. You are running away from yourself. fleeing from your discomfort, running away from your emotions, fleeing the conflict, fleeing from the possibility of someone getting angry with you, fleeing from that fear of losing affection that you have carried for years. But that escape has consequences. The first is internal. Every time you choose yourself last, you break a little inside. The second is external. Every time you silently quit, others begin to take it as the norm. Because when you show, through your actions, that you are always available, others stop wondering if they should ask you for something. When you show that nothing bothers you, others stop being careful with their words around you. When you teach that you accept injustice, others stop trying to be fair to you. When you show that you're content, others stop offering you more. Resignation is contagious. It becomes a habit. And the worst part, it becomes identity. You start by being kind, and without realizing it, you become someone who doesn't know how to say enough is enough. You start by helping, and without realizing it, you become everyone's emotional solution. You start by giving in a little, and without realizing it, you gave in too much. Zen explains that nothing is more exhausting than maintaining a persona, a character who smiles even when he's in pain, a character who calms others while crumbling inside, a character who appears strong while his true strength dwindles. This mistake, confusing kindness with giving up on yourself, has deep psychological roots. Many people grew up feeling that their worth depended on being useful, not causing problems, being everyone's support. They learned to survive by pleasing others. They learned to be loved through adaptation. But adulthood doesn't work that way. Peace doesn't work that way. Dignity doesn't work that way. True compassion begins at home. You can't help from a broken place. You cannot support others from your own abandonment. You cannot love anyone if you forget about yourself. And most importantly, setting boundaries doesn't take away your kindness, it restores your balance. Zen says, "What you give from your emptiness creates debt. What you give from your fullness creates harmony. Constant resignation creates resentment. Conscious kindness creates respect." And when you finally understand this, when you feel it in your body, in your chest, in your energy, an internal change begins that is so strong that your environment cannot ignore it. Your presence becomes different. Your answers become different. Your gaze becomes different. Your way of speaking, moving, acting, everything starts to align. Because true kindness is not about giving everything away. True kindness is giving without losing yourself. To love without disappearing. Help without betraying yourself. Give in without breaking your center. And when that first mistake is illuminated within you, you begin to see much more clearly how you function, how you relate, what you allow, what you keep silent about, what you carry, what you sustain, and, above all, what hurts you. This first awakening is essential, because without it, the other errors cannot be seen or understood. Now, you are ready to move forward. Now that the first mistake is clear within you, you begin to notice something that previously went unnoticed. Every time you give up on yourself, you also give up on your clarity. And without clarity, all your relationships become uncertain territory, where boundaries blur and dynamics become distorted. But here, another very profound psychological phenomenon arises that many people do not see coming, and which Zen explains with surprising precision. A phenomenon that leads you to say less than you feel, to hide what hurts you, to swallow discomfort, to justify the unjustifiable, and all this with the mistaken idea that this is how you will maintain peace. That phenomenon is the second mistake. The second mistake is believing that silence maintains harmony. This mistake is just as common as the first, and often even more destructive. Because silence seems like a quick fix. It seems mature. It seems emotionally intelligent. It seems spiritual. But in reality, it's one of the main causes of resentment, frustration, and loss of respect. Silence is not peace. To remain silent is to postpone a conflict that will return later in a more painful form. The most difficult thing is that this mistake is learned very early on. We learn to stay silent so as not to bother anyone, to avoid arguments, to avoid disappointing them, to avoid seeming dramatic, to avoid complicating things. Thus, little by little, the mind creates a habit. At the slightest risk of discomfort, you choose to remain silent. And silence, when it comes from fear, protects nothing. It just hides the problem under the emotional rug. Zen says, what you keep silent about accumulates. What you accumulate hardens. What hardens breaks you. Think about all those times when something bothered you, but you said, I'm not going to say anything. It's not worth it. Think about the times when someone subtly disrespected you. A look, a tone, a comment, and you responded with a half smile to hide the sting you felt inside. Think about the times when someone crossed a small line and you told yourself, it's not that big of a deal, even when it was. Each time you did that, you left a part of your voice locked away somewhere no one could hear it. And even though you think it was forgotten there, it didn't disappear. It became a seed of resentment. Because every unfair silence you make outward becomes an internal noise within. There are people who have been accumulating silences for years. Silences born of fear. Silences out of habit. Silences due to tiredness. Silences to protect relationships that, ironically, are damaged more by what isn't said than by what could have been said honestly. Zen explains that a relationship, whether romantic, familial, platonic, or professional, doesn't break down because of major arguments, but rather from the accumulation of unspoken truths. Tension doesn't arise from speaking, but from not speaking when you should. It's like a rope that slowly tightens. Each silence stretches her out a little longer, and one day, when the tension is too great, the rope breaks, and it does so in a way that is beyond repair. But here's the most important point. Staying silent doesn't just affect your relationships, it affects your self-esteem. When you keep quiet about something that hurts you, you are unknowingly sending yourself this message: my situation doesn't matter. And that message, repeated over and over, undermines your self-esteem. Because the respect you receive from others almost always reflects the respect you have for your own voice. There are people who have never experienced the respect they deserve because they have never firmly expressed their truth. Not because they don't feel it, but because they fear what might happen if they do. But Zen is direct. The truth does not create conflict. It reveals where the conflict already existed. Your silence doesn't prevent the problem. It hides it. Your silence does not calm the tension. It pushes it inwards. Your silence solves nothing. It only delays the inevitable. And here, another, even deeper aspect emerges. When you keep quiet about what bothers you, you teach others that they can repeat it. When you keep quiet about what hurts, you normalize that pain. When you remain silent about injustice, you legitimize injustice. When you remain silent to avoid conflict, you end up creating a bigger one: internal conflict. And that internal conflict manifests itself in very subtle ways. Constant exhaustion, irritability, for no apparent reason, feeling of always carrying something. Sadness. You can't explain resentment towards people who never knew how you feel. Involuntary, emotional distancing, unexpected explosions, after accumulating too much. Psychology calls it emotional buildup. Zen calls it misalignment of the self. Your body calls it exhaustion. Your energy calls it loss of center. Your soul calls it forgetting you. The healthiest relationships are not those that avoid conflict. They are the ones who face it calmly, clearly, and with presence. Talking doesn't destroy peace. Speaking from honesty builds it. But here's something profound. It's not about saying everything. It's about not staying silent about what hurts you. It's about not denying what you feel. It's about not betraying yourself to support others. The truth doesn't need to be aggressive to be firm. It doesn't need to be harsh to be clear. It doesn't need to be long to be powerful. Truth is, in essence, a form of presence. A presence that says, this is me. This is how I feel. This is what I need. And when you start speaking from that place, not from anger or fear, but from clarity, something wonderful happens. Your voice becomes your shield. Your clarity becomes your limit. Your authenticity becomes your power. The silence had taken away your space. The truth will give it back to you. And once you feel what it feels like to get your voice back, you never want to live in silence again. Because you discover that the respect you were looking for outside was always waiting inside. This is the second mistake. And to see it is to awaken. Understanding it is setting yourself free. As you regain your voice, you discover something profoundly revealing. Many of the situations in which you felt others were walking all over you were not solely due to what they were doing, but to what you allowed for fear of losing connection, harmony, or affection. Speaking gives you back your presence. But now, an even more important discovery has emerged. Talking is not enough. Because even if you learn to express what you feel, there is a silent inner force that can sabotage your clarity if you don't recognize it. That force is the origin of the third mistake. The third mistake is trying to please everyone to avoid rejection. This mistake is deeper than it seems. It's not about being kind. Being kind is healthy, humane, necessary. It's about molding yourself, reducing yourself, transforming yourself, and softening yourself to be liked. It's about giving up parts of yourself to gain approval. It's about sacrificing your authenticity to fit in. When you live from this need, your value always depends on others. And when your worth depends on others, your life becomes a stage. You perform, and they either applaud or they don't. You smile, and they approve or disapprove. You give in, and they either accept or not. You put in the effort, and they decide if it's enough or not. Zen warns about this trap with ruthless clarity. He who seeks to please ceases to be. Because you can't be yourself when you're trying to be what others want you to be. And you cannot live in peace when every gesture you make depends on how it will be received. This need to please almost always stems from fear. Fear of rejection, fear of loneliness, fear of disappointing, fear of being seen as complicated, fear of receiving less affection, fear of not being good enough. And that fear pushes many people to do things that distance them from themselves, accept plans they don't want, laughing at comments that hurt them, to silence real opinions, always be understanding, apologizing even when they haven't done anything wrong, adapting to people who never adapt to them. That behavior seems friendly from the outside, but on the inside, it's exhausting. It's like always holding a costume that weighs too much, a costume you can't take off because you fear that if you do, others will stop loving you. But here's the truth that nobody wants to admit. People don't respect you when you try to please them. They respect you when you are authentic. Because authenticity generates strength. Authenticity creates presence. Authenticity generates clarity. And clarity is magnetic. When you try to please others, you give up your power. When it's you, you get it back. Psychology explains it with a clear concept: excessive adaptation. When you adapt too much, others stop seeing you. They see the version you construct for them, but they don't see you. And what is not seen is not respected, not because others are cruel, but because you yourself taught that your needs, your opinions, and your emotions can be ignored to avoid discomfort. Imagine a tree trying to lean in all directions to give shade to everyone. It ends up going wrong. It ends up weakening. It ends up breaking. One tree does not provide shade for everyone. It casts a shadow from its center. That's her way of being helpful, authentic, and strong. Likewise, you. When you try to adapt to every person, you lose your own way. When you lose your form, you lose your strength. When you lose your strength, others stop feeling you. And when they don't sense you, they cross lines without realizing it. Sometimes, people don't walk all over you because they want to. They walk right over you because they don't know where you are. And they don't know where you are because you yourself fade away trying not to bother them. But being yourself, in an honest, calm, firm, and present way, is not aggressive. It's clarity. And clarity in Buddhism is a profound form of compassion. Because when you're authentic, you're not fooling anyone with a fake version of yourself. Don't create bonds based on your sacrifice. You don't build relationships where you're the one who holds everything together. You don't allow others to depend on your silence. You don't feed into dynamics where your needs disappear. Being authentic doesn't break connections. It shatters illusions. And when illusions fall, real relationships appear. Those where you can be yourself without fear. Zen says, when you stop trying so hard to be liked, you become liked by those who truly matter. And this is the most liberating part. Every time you relinquish the need to please, your energy becomes more solid. Every time you speak your mind respectfully, your presence grows. Every time you choose to be yourself without asking permission, you attract people who value you for who you are, not for what you give them. The fear of not being liked dissolves when you choose to like yourself first. Because when you treat yourself with dignity, your life aligns with your inner level. And those who aren't ready to relate to you at that level simply walk away. And that's not loss, it's purification. This third mistake, living to please, is so common that millions of people don't even know they are making it. They find it natural. They think it's fine. They think it's polite. But what it really does is weaken your relationships, erode your authenticity, and drive away respect. And only when you see it clearly, only when you look it in the eyes, do you begin to feel that inner strength that tells you, I don't have to please everyone. I have to be true to myself. That is the beginning of a freer life, more honest, stronger, more focused, more respected. As you stop living to please others, something very interesting begins to happen within you. For the first time, you feel the inner space that was always there, but which you had filled with other people's expectations. You feel a new kind of silence, a different clarity, a strength you didn't previously recognize as your own. And although this transformation feels liberating, it also exposes a deeply ingrained, almost invisible habit that is triggered when you try to reclaim your boundaries. That habit is the origin of the fourth mistake. The fourth mistake is ignoring early signs because you don't want to overreact. This mistake is silent, and that's why it's so dangerous. It manifests itself in small things: an uncomfortable comment, a contemptuous tone, a lack of consideration, a promise that is not kept, an attitude that does not fit with your values, a strange feeling in the body. Signs that appear on the surface, soft at first, timid, almost imperceptible, Your intuition notices them, your body feels them, your energy registers them, but your mind tries to minimize them. I'm probably exaggerating. It's not that big of a deal. Perhaps he had a bad day. I don't want to be paranoid. I don't want to seem sensitive. I'd better let this go. And so, the first boundary crossing is normalized. And what you normalize once, you repeat without realizing it. Zen teaches a very simple truth. The first sign is a whisper. If you don't listen to the whisper, a blow will follow. And if you ignore the blow, a lesson will come. But almost no one listens to the whisper because it's uncomfortable to admit that something is wrong. We prefer to see what we want to see, not what really is. Ignoring signs is a form of self-deception. You soften reality to avoid looking at what you don't want to see. And that self-deception, although it may seem protective, always leads to more suffering. Because when someone behaves unacceptably and you minimize it, you're not being patient. You're sowing your own wound. Psychology explains this as cognitive dissonance. When something doesn't fit, but accepting it implies changing the dynamic, your mind prefers to justify rather than confront. For example, if someone is always late, you say that we all have difficult days. If someone speaks badly to you, you say that it's their way of expressing themselves. If someone manipulates you emotionally, you say that they are sensitive and easily hurt. If someone makes fun of your emotions, you say that he's just joking. If someone downplays your actions, you say that they didn't mean to do it. And meanwhile, your intuition is speaking to you with a clarity that your mind doesn't want to accept. The body doesn't lie. Energy doesn't lie. Intuition does not dramatize. If something feels strange from the beginning, it's not a coincidence, it's information. Zen says, signs don't warn us arbitrarily. It tells you what your mind doesn't yet understand. But here's the profound part. Ignoring the signs not only allows others to cross your boundaries, it teaches you that your perception is not trustworthy. When you ignore an internal signal, you're not just misunderstanding the other person. You are invalidating yourself. And that disability accumulates just like the silences. It ends up becoming a feeling of confusion and guilt that weighs more than any external conflict. Am I exaggerating? Am I just too sensitive? Could it be that I'm the problem, but not? The problem is not you. The problem is that you didn't learn to trust your perception. You didn't learn to honor your feelings. And without that trust, without that inner honor, your relationships become a terrain where others define what is right or wrong, not you. Respect is born from honesty with your internal signals. What you ignore today will be a broken boundary tomorrow. And what you allow once, you allow forever, until one day, you can't take it anymore. Many relationships deteriorate, not because they were terrible from the start, but because they gave off signs from the beginning that you chose not to see. That person who barely listened to you, that friendship that always talked about itself, that relative who mocked her unintentionally, that colleague who only shows up when he needs something, that couple who showed small lacks of empathy from the beginning. The signs were always there, but you made excuses because you wanted everything to fit together. Zen is clear. The mind that refuses to see suffers twice, when it denies and when it awakens. And waking up hurts. It hurts to realize that you ignored things that weigh heavily on you today. It hurts to see how patterns were formed that allowed others to hurt you without bad intentions, but with little awareness. It hurts to admit that the signs were there from the beginning, from that first gesture that unsettled you, from that comment that stole a little of your peace. But this pain is part of the awakening. He's not punishing you. He's showing you a path. Because when you learn to listen to the signs from the beginning, you avoid unbalanced relationships. You avoid investing energy in people who don't deserve it. You avoid carrying emotions that are not yours to bear. You avoid wearing yourself out, trying to fix what was never right. You avoid wasting years maintaining relationships that reveal their truth from the start. Listening to signs is not prejudice, it is awareness. It's not about judging others, it's about not betraying yourself. Intuition is the voice of the self. The first discomfort is a warning. Tension in the body is a map. The energy that contracts is a limit. And when you honor your inner signs, your entire life changes direction. You start surrounding yourself with people who respect you because you respect yourself. You begin to create connections where boundaries are non-negotiable. You begin to walk into relationships where your intuition is welcome. You begin to feel more grounded, more present, harder to manipulate, more you. Ignoring signs was a way of protecting yourself from uncomfortable truths. Listening to them will, from now on, be a way to protect your peace. This is the fourth mistake, and seeing it is an act of profound maturity. Understanding it is a way to return to your center. Applying it is an act of spiritual dignity. When you learn to listen to the early signs, something very curious happens. You begin to see your life with a clarity that previously seemed impossible. You see dynamics you once normalized, behaviors you once justified, silences you once ignored, and patterns you once called coincidence. And with that newfound clarity comes an inevitable revelation. Often you weren't suffering because others were unfair, but because you yourself were lingering too long in places where there was nothing left to find. Emotional places you had turned into home, relationships you had turned into refuge, people you had turned into exceptions, even when your whole being was urging you to move on. And it is precisely at that point where the fifth mistake appears. The fifth mistake is staying where you no longer fit for fear of letting go. This error stems from attachment, one of the central themes of Buddhism. Not material attachment, but emotional attachment. Attachment to an idea, to a person, to a hope, to a memory, to an idealized version of someone who only existed in your mind. Many times you don't allow others to respect you because you yourself cling to relationships that have already shown their truth. You're left waiting for a change that never comes. You end up creating excuses to justify behaviors that shouldn't be tolerated. You end up holding on to relationships that wear you down. You end up investing energy in relationships that no longer have reciprocity. You keep stretching out dynamics that showed you from the beginning that they weren't going to work. And you do it not because you're naive or because you don't know what you deserve. You do it because letting go hurts. It hurts to accept that you gave more than you received. It hurts to admit that you expected something that didn't happen. It hurts to let go of the idea of what that person could be. It hurts to face reality without embellishment, without expectations, without illusion. The mind suffers more from its attachments than from losses, and the heart suffers more from what it holds on to than from what it lets go of. In Zen, there is a profoundly simple teaching. What sustains your pain is not the situation, it's your resistance to letting go of it. And that's exactly what happens when you stay where you no longer fit in. You resist, you cling on, you refuse to see. You convince yourself that it's not that bad, that everything can get better, that maybe tomorrow will be different. But reality doesn't change because of hope. Change for action. And the most powerful action is recognizing that you can't stay in a place where your soul is already crying out for freedom. Psychology explains this phenomenon as affective dissonance. When you feel that something is wrong, but emotionally you hold on, because the idea of losing hurts more than the idea of staying. That's why so many people endure painful dynamics. because staying hurts, but leaving hurts more. Or so they think. But Zen has a different view. Letting go is not losing. Letting go is ceasing to hold on to what now weighs more than it nourishes. When you remain in an unbalanced relationship, you send a silent message to the world and to yourself. My peace can wait. My dignity can wait. My well-being can wait. And the world responds accordingly. Nothing changes outside if what you accept inside remains the same. The hardest part is that sometimes you stay not out of love, but out of fear. Fear of being alone. Fear of making a mistake. Fear of making a decision without guarantees. Fear of imagining that perhaps the other person will change just when you leave. Fear of letting go of the illusion of what could have been. But the truth is simple and transformative. When you stay where you don't fit in, life can't take you where you would fit in. Your energy gets trapped in a cycle. Your growth stops. Your peace is eroding. Your clarity becomes confused. Your identity becomes diluted. And all this, little by little, fuels the perception that others can walk all over you. Not because they deserve it, but because you yourself continue to hold doors that should already be closed. Zen says, a door you don't close in time becomes an energy leak. And that's how it is. When you don't move, when you don't advance, when you stay out of fear instead of staying by choice, your energy weakens. You become more vulnerable to manipulation. You become more likely to justify injustices. You become more sensitive to a lack of reciprocity. You become easier to destabilize. Letting go is not an act of running away. It is an act of clarity. It is an act of respect. It is an act of spiritual maturity. Because letting go is not distancing oneself. Letting go is alignment. To let go is, I choose myself. I can hear myself. I allow myself to move forward. Often, people don't respect you because you keep insisting on being in places where you're not seen. But when you let go, when you close that cycle, when you take a step forward, you recover something you had lost, your center. And from your center, relationships become clearer. From your center, the signs are seen in time. From your center, intuition becomes strong. From your center, life shows you who truly deserves your energy. The fear of letting go fades when you understand that the real danger is not leaving. The real danger is staying where your spirit withers. The fifth mistake, staying where you no longer fit, is one of the most common and painful, but also one of the most liberating when you see it. Because the moment you recognize it, your life begins to free itself from the burden that doesn't belong to you. And with that liberation comes a new clarity, a new strength, a dignity that accompanies you like an inner light. When you finally begin to let go of what no longer fits, something extraordinary happens. Your energy is released. That same energy that was previously spent holding on to the unsustainable now returns to you. It returns in the form of clarity, intuition, strength, and a calm you haven't felt in a long time. But when that calm arrives, when you discover that you can walk lighter, when you see that you can move forward without carrying the weight of old ties, another fundamental lesson appears. One that many avoid seeing because it involves changing the way you relate to others. And it is at this point that the sixth mistake is revealed. The sixth mistake is giving more than you receive, hoping that the other person will someday appreciate it. This mistake is so common that many people call it love, loyalty, commitment, or patience. But in reality, it has more to do with hope than with balance. And hope, when it is not accompanied by reciprocity, turns into wear and tear. This error stems from a deeply human belief. The idea that if you give enough, if you try hard enough, if you endure enough, if you demonstrate enough, One day the other person will wake up and realize your worth. But that day rarely comes. And not because you're not good enough, not because you're not enough, but because you are giving in an area where your contribution is not seen, not appreciated, or not reciprocated. Giving more than you receive breaks something inside you, disrupt your balance, break your dignity, break your energy, shatter your clarity. Zen is straightforward on this point. What you give in excess empties you. What you receive in lack confuses you. And that confusion can last for years. Because when you give a lot and receive little, your mind starts to justify itself with phrases like, "He's probably busy." Perhaps he demonstrates it in another way. "I'm more expressive. I can't expect the same. People don't all love the same way." Perhaps he needs more time. We need to understand their wounds. And yes, all of that may be true. But it may also be true that that person is simply unwilling or unable to give you what you need and deserve. And continuing to give more than you receive only widens the gap. Psychology describes it as affective asymmetry, when one gives too much and the other gives almost nothing. That imbalance does not generate love. It generates emotional dependence. When it's always you who calls, who asks, who listens, who supports, who understands, who gives in, who waits, who adapts, who is still there, you create a structure where your value is hidden behind your excessive giving. And the saddest thing is that the more you give, the more invisible you become. Because human beings tend to value more that which is difficult, that which is balanced, that which has clear limits. When you give too much without receiving anything equivalent, the other person doesn't see your giving as a gift. She sees it as a condition, as part of the landscape, as something that you simply are. And that's where the wear and tear comes in. When the extraordinary becomes the norm. When your effort becomes invisible. When your patience becomes an obligation. When your love becomes an inexhaustible resource that others believe they can take without consequences. But Zen teaches something profoundly liberating. Reciprocity is not required. It is acknowledged. Reciprocity is not something to be begged for. There is no begging. It is not forced. It is not prosecuted. It cannot be bought with sacrifices. The reciprocity is felt, and if you don't feel it, it's not there. But here's the most delicate point. Giving too much doesn't mean you're generous. Often, it means you're afraid. Fear of losing the relationship. Fear of not being enough. Fear that if you don't give so much, they will abandon you. Fear that if you don't try harder, you won't be seen. And that fear pushes you to give more than you have, more than you can, more than is healthy, in the hope that the other person will finally wake up. But nobody wakes up because someone else is worn out. Each person wakes up when they decide to do so. Zen is clear. Giving from need attracts lack. Giving from a place of fullness brings balance. Giving too much is not love. It's compensation. It's about trying to fill with your actions the void left by the other person's lack of reciprocity. But you can't fill that void like that, because that emptiness is not yours. It is a boundary that has not been respected, an unrequited reciprocity, an unmet need, energy not returned. Giving too much distances you from yourself. Giving too much makes you forget who you are. Giving too much turns you into a version of yourself that works for others, but not for your peace. When you begin to observe this mistake, you begin to see the most liberating truth. Respect doesn't come from what you give, but from what you allow. And reciprocity is born when you stop giving excessively and start giving from your center. Balanced relationships are not those that require the most sacrifice. They are the ones that have the most clarity. More presence, more limits, more truth. When you stop giving more than you receive, something magical happens. The energy balances, expectations become clearer, the links are being leaked, the abuses dissolve, and true connections are strengthened. Because those who truly value you will come closer, and those who were only there because of your availability disappear. That is the power of regaining your center. The sixth mistake not only shows you why others walk all over you, it shows you why you allowed it to happen for so long. Seeing it, feeling it, and understanding it is an act of awakening. Applying it is an act of self-respect. And experiencing it is an act of emotional freedom. After seeing how you give more than you receive, something inside you awakens. You begin to notice those small energy leaks that once seemed normal. You begin to realize how draining it was to maintain unbalanced relationships. You begin to recognize that many of your wounds didn't come from what others did to you, but from what you did to avoid losing them. And with that newfound clarity, with that inner awakening, the last piece of the puzzle emerges. An error that acts as a hidden root of many of the above. A silent mistake that wears down your identity without you even realizing it. A mistake that causes others to overtake you even when you have already changed many things. That mistake is the most profound of all. The seventh mistake is abandoning your authenticity to avoid conflict. This mistake is more subtle than the mistake of trying to please, deeper than silence, more dangerous than giving too much. Abandoning your authenticity is a renunciation that happens little by little, almost always without you realizing it. It happens when you change your opinion to match someone else's. It happens when you suppress your true desire in order to maintain a good atmosphere. It happens when you adopt the tastes of the other person in order to fit in. It happens when you stop saying what you need to say because you're afraid it will create distance. It happens when you become so flexible that you no longer know what you really want. And this abandonment feels intelligent at first. It seems strategic, seems prudent. He seems mature. But it comes at a high price. Very expensive. Because when you disconnect from your authenticity, you disconnect from your power. And without inner strength, it is inevitable that others will advance further than they should. Psychology calls it self-silencing. Zen calls it loss of being. They both agree on something very important. When you stray from your truth, your energy disappears. Not your appearance, not your kindness, not your physical presence, your real energy. And energy is what the world responds to. People feel your energy more than your words. That's why, when you abandon yourself, others also begin to abandon you a little. Not because they want to, but because they no longer feel a firm presence in you. An authentic presence. A presence that inspires respect. The most painful thing is that abandoning your authenticity doesn't feel like a decision. It feels like survival. Your mind tells you, don't say it, he might get angry. Don't be that person, she might walk away. Don't show that, they might judge you. Don't say this, they might think badly of you. Don't set limits, they might reject you. But this logic is a soft poison. It seems to protect you, but it slowly destroys you. Because what you gain by avoiding conflict, you lose in identity. And what you lose in identity, you lose in respect. Zen teaches something that changes lives. Conflict doesn't arise when you speak your truth. Conflict arises when you refuse to be yourself. The toughest conflict is not external, it's internal. It's living every day holding a reduced version of yourself. It's living knowing that you could speak clearly, but you choose to remain silent. It's living with the feeling that you could be real, but you choose to adapt. It's living knowing you could be free, but still fearing the reactions of others. That internal conflict erodes your self-esteem. It erodes your energy. It erodes your dignity. It erodes your peace. Once you start neglecting yourself to avoid creating problems, very dangerous dynamics come into play. Others begin to decide for you. Your voice loses strength. Your limits become invisible. Your wishes are placed at the end. Your needs become secondary. Your emotions seem like a hindrance. All of this happens because you yourself stopped occupying your own place. And here's the most important part. When it's not you, others fill the empty space with their expectations, not with your truth. People like that tend to become very adaptable, and at the same time very invisible, very helpful, and at the same time very ignored, very understanding, and at the same time very poorly understood. Because abandoning your authenticity doesn't give you love. It gives you superficial acceptance. It gives you short-term comfort. It gives you momentary calm. But he never gives you true respect. He never gives you anything in return. It never gives you deep relationships. Zen says, what is achieved through fear is maintained only through more fear. That's why, when you abandon your authenticity, every relationship becomes a tightrope. You always fear that by showing your true self, the other person will leave. And living like this is not peace, it's constant tension. But when you recover your authenticity, when you say again, this is who I am, this is how I feel, this is what I think, this is what I want, something extraordinary happens. People immediately begin to respect you, because your authenticity is your presence. Your authenticity is your limit. Your authenticity is your inner strength. Your authenticity is your Zen path. And those who don't know how to relate to your truth don't deserve a place in it. This is the seventh and final mistake, the most subtle, the deepest, the most transformative thing when you see it. To see it is to awaken. Applying it is freedom. Live it. It's peace. Now that you have clearly seen each of these mistakes, 7 silent ways in which you gave away your power, your energy, and your presence, you may feel something inside you that you haven't felt in a long time. Perhaps it's not euphoria. It may not be immediate relief. Perhaps it's not a spectacular feeling. What you're probably feeling now is something deeper, a calm understanding, a lucid calm, a clarity that doesn't shout, but doesn't hide either. It's the feeling of having turned on a light in an inner place where there were previously shadows. A small, humble, silent light, but transformative. Zen teaches that true awakening does not occur with explosions, but with recognitions. And that's exactly what happened here. You recognized your patterns. You acknowledged your silences. You acknowledged your fears. You acknowledged your resignations. You recognized your truth. People often think that strength is built by adding things, adding skills, adding endurance, adding confidence. But that's not always the case. Sometimes true strength is built by subtracting weights, lowering expectations, reducing attachments, subtracting false versions of yourself, subtracting silences that extinguish you, removing dynamics that drain you. And that is what this Zen path has allowed you to see. Peace is not found in what you add, but in what you let go of. Respect is not shown in what you do, but in what you allow. Clarity is not achieved by speaking louder, but by listening more deeply. That strength does not come from effort, but from authenticity. Every mistake you saw here wasn't a mistake. It was a door, a gateway to a more conscious version of yourself, a version that feels lighter, more present, more dignified, more focused. And now that you have passed through those doors, something fundamental changes within you, your internal stance towards life. You are no longer someone who lets themselves be dragged along by others. Now, you are someone who observes what he feels, that analyzes. Listen to your inner signals with respect. He knows when to speak and when to be silent. It understands when to stay and when to move forward. Who recognizes when to give and when to protect their energy. She has stopped seeking approval as if her worth depended on it. That attitude, that inner clarity, is what makes others treat you differently. Because the world always responds to your energy, not your words. Before, your energy said, "I'm available even when I shouldn't be. I prefer that you are okay even if I am not. I can endure more. I don't want any trouble. If I have to disappear a little to keep you close, I will." Now, your energy starts to say something completely different. I don't abandon myself. I don't keep quiet about what's important. I don't manipulate my truth to be liked. I don't ignore signs that protect me. I don't stay where my soul cannot breathe. I don't give more than I can, just out of fear. I don't lose my essence to preserve relationships. This energy, firm yet serene, is what transforms your relationships. People begin to feel that you are no longer malleable, but conscious. You are no longer overly accessible, but balanced. You are no longer someone who dissolves to fit in, but someone who expands from their center. You don't need to become tough so that they don't walk all over you. You don't need to become cold to be respected. You don't need to become distant to retain your power. Zen doesn't ask that of you. Zen asks you for something both simpler and more difficult. Be yourself, authentically and completely. Being yourself means looking at yourself honestly. It involves feeling your limits. It involves honoring your intuition. It involves telling your truth without aggression. It involves maintaining your dignity without shouting. It means loving without losing yourself. It involves accompanying without disappearing. It means helping without breaking yourself. It involves choosing without fear. Being yourself means returning to your center. That sacred place where life is clearer, where relationships become fairer, where respect is not demanded, but simply appears. That place where nobody can walk all over you, because simply, you no longer put yourself there. Now you know that people didn't treat you that way out of malice. I treated you like that because you were living on autopilot, repeating old patterns that no longer represent you. Patterns based on fear, attachment, habit, and past wounds. But now you see them. And when you see something, you can no longer unsee it. You have awakened. No to an abstract philosophy. No to nice ideas. No to empty theories. You have awakened yourself. To your peace. To your dignity. At your own value. To your clarity. To your authenticity. And from this point, from this new awareness, life feels different. Not because it's easier, but because you're more real. Zen would say, your true power lies not in controlling others, but in controlling yourself. It's not about changing the world, but about changing your attitude towards it. It's not about running away from pain, but about not repeating it. It's not about receiving respect, but about becoming someone who respects themselves. Now you know, respect is not a gift that others give you. Respect is a consequence of your inner presence. So breathe, feel your chest, feel your body, feel your center. And remember this truth that can change your whole life. Life doesn't pass you by when you walk from your truth.